All right, guys, we're here with another episode of Silverback Syndicate. Today, I have a very special guest all the way from New York City. He is the founder of Galactic Records, CEO, A&R, producer, DJ, manager.
Not a producer.
I'm going to say producer because he makes shit happen, and that's called producing. Anyway, I would like to think that this is a colleague and friend. Sometimes he's my boss on occasion because we have worked together in the past. This is Giuseppe. Giuseppe is here today because I feel like it's important, even though this podcast is specifically towards the EP industry, he is a decision maker. A lot of times we have guys moving around and speaking on things, and nobody is actually tapping into the decision makers. So I brought one of the young, smarter ones that I know here today, so that you guys can actually get a grasp of what the expectation levels are from a person who's making the decisions on who's protecting their artists. So first of all, Giuseppe, how old are you?
I'm 29.
29. And I've known you, T is how old, 21 now?
He's 22, and I want to say we met in 2019, fall of 2019.
I would say before that. T was like 15, 16 the first time I met you.
T was 17 when you met him, but we went on our first tour in Seattle during that time, and that was in the fall of 2019.
Okay, so he was right, 2019. It feels longer than that. All right, well, 2019 made you how old?
Fall of 2019, I was 24.
24, record label, has his first major artist under his belt, all straight out of the mud. So the reason why I bring that up is because if you walked past him in the room, you probably wouldn't realize he's the reason why you're in the room. And I just want to point that out, that the expectation of what you think a decision maker looks like is not the oldest guy in the room. It's not the oldest lady in the room. You're going to have somebody in that room younger than you making decisions about your career and your future, and you don't even realize it because you're putting a pre-designated mindset on what to look for in a decision maker. So tell me a little bit about your journey in the industry, because like I said, you're extremely young to be at the successful level that I consider you to be at and what I see. And it's only getting started. Like, you know, for what you have accomplished in your career, people have taken 30, 40 years. You're doing it right out the gate and consistently, which is the most important part.
Yeah.
So just tell the people a little bit about how you started and what got you going in this direction, because you've had many other options as far as what you want to do to make a living.
Yeah. I mean, I come from a finance background. I think I subconsciously was drawn to music, which is obviously a passion of mine, which has resulted, I think, in all the success that you're talking about. Although I don't think we have been, as successful as we can be, but everything is really a result of passion and loving what I do. Just how, you told me the story of your older brother and how much, you just love protecting him and how you were kind of thrown into that, but it just became secondhand nature to you. So, I mean, everything up until this point is a result, I would say, of passion, which keeps me going through, the tough times and the good times, as well as, consistency and execution and organization and so many other things. But going back to my journey, I mean, I've loved music since a young age. I started off as a DJ before anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in 2013. And my DJing career took off very, very quickly. And that led me to meet many people in the music industry, artist managers, just a lot of very important, well-connected people that went to school in DC where I went to school at. And from being a DJ, I started being a promoter, booking artists for after parties, building those relationships with the artist managers. And just along that journey, kind of figuring out what I was drawn to more than anything. And I never really planned on being a record label executive or a manager. But there was this artist wave, which you know, who asked me to be his manager, or not asked me to be his manager. He asked me to be his DJ when I was DJing at a nightclub, and 6 months had gone by, and I was just like, what's going on? You haven't dropped one song. And he's like, yeah, I'm just waiting on my team, and I don't have a manager, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, let me help you put out your music and help you market it. And, you know, I kind of just taught myself on how to market his music, and we put out his first song, and we had 10 record labels reach out to us within a week. And just kind of seeing all that happen as a result of that work that we'd put in like all day and night for a week, I was just kind of like, oh, maybe this is what I'm meant to do. And, you know, so I just continued on the path of helping him put out his music, helping him market his music. I started meeting people outside of me just being a DJ. I started meeting publicists, or I started meeting label people, so on and so forth. And I fell in love with it. Okay. I said, this is what I want to do. And, you know, soon enough, I met this guy who was like, oh, I really like what you're doing. I want to invest in what you're doing. And, you know, he gave me the whole runaround. 6 months go by, showed him financials. And this was, mind you, this was only to get $50,000 for like half of my management company at the time. And he ends up going ghost on me. And I just remember I was so furious that night that I went to sleep, and I was like, I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to like find something. And I'm just on SoundCloud, scrolling through music, and all of a sudden I stumble upon this song, and I'm like, wait, the tone of this artist's voice is crazy, and the melodies and the flows, I was just really drawn to it. And that turned out to be Lil Tecca, who is a partner in Galactic, and I reached out to him that night. We met up the next day at the studio, and the rest was kind of history throughout, you know, those first 9 to 10 months that we started working together. We hit the Billboard Hot 100 independently with Ransom. And, you know, thanks to him, we were kind of able to lay the foundation for what Galactic is now.
Okay. I definitely, you know, being able to see it from afar and up close, I've always consistently told you guys, yo, listen, y'all are doing something special because, number one, the way you guys move is organic, and you're just good people. I always feel like good people do good things. But the music industry is a tricky place. You know, like you said, the guy ghosted you, you know, just little dumb stuff early on in the industry for you, and you still kept going. It deters a lot of people, so, you know, that shows strength in itself. Now, what I want to get into is you have an artist. You guys are moving around. Obviously, when the budget's not right, you can't afford security. Maybe you don't even have the need of security. But that record blew up so fast.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the need came extra quick.
Yeah. It wasn't ever really a planned thing. It was just like, it kind of just happens. And you're like, whoa, damn, like, you need security now. You're like, yeah, I do need security. Now I'm getting bombarded by hundreds of kids just chasing us wherever we're going. Or, you know, people love Tecca. Yeah. People are obsessed with Tecca, you know, and, you know, people found out where he lives. There's fans waiting outside his house asking for pictures, or, you know, doing, you know, the other, which is a blessing, but it's, you know, also a curse in a sense of like, you know, I want to be able to chill at my house, you know. There's a time.
Fame is pricey.
There's a time and a place for all this. And so obviously when things like that happen, comes the aha moment where it's like, you know what, we need a full-time bodyguard. And that's been a very interesting journey in and of itself, and dealing with EPs and you know, that whole world. And going back to what you were mentioning at the beginning, when, you know, you never know who's going to be in the room. So no matter whether you're no matter whether you're an EP or a manager, a label, an A&R, whatever it is, you know, it's always important to carry yourself at the highest standard, because there's been several EPs that I've gone to and I've asked for their numbers just off me observing how they move with their client. And they may not even be with me or Tecca, but I may see how an EP agent moves in a room, or how he moves with his client. I'm like, I like how he moves.
So me and you both know, there's been trial and error in regards to hiring guards, firing guards, what to look out for, things that come up. At the beginning, did you go through a vetting process? Did anybody guide you on how to make a decision on who to hire? Or was it more like a friend of a friend recommended somebody and then that's just how it started and then you just...
I think for us personally, it's been trial and error. Obviously, being very young and not having any mentorship really in any aspect. But along with that, I just think naturally Tech and myself have very good instincts and intuition, which have helped us, pick the right EPs. It's never like we've had any crazy issues with an EP. In terms of like us and them, I've seen EPs do some wild stuff like while they're working for us. But I think it's been more of a trial and error, and as you get older and you experience more, you kind of get a better sense of what you like and what you want in EP. I think every client has a different need for what they're looking for and what they want. And I think Tecca knows what he wants in an EP, and he communicates that to me. And we've been very fortunate to have a few EPs around him that he feels very comfortable with, that are great at what they do, and we stick with that rotation that we have.
Okay, so with that being said, the client or your partner, Tecca, reaches out to you and says, hey, I don't like this. Can you fix it? Normally, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you so that you can say it for the people who are viewing. When you get that call, is it normally about something social, like a social dynamic, or is it more X's and O's of being an EP and keeping him safe physically, like the bodyguards part of it? Because in my mind, I feel like it's more like a social dynamic versus the actual X's and O's, like, oh, he forgot to unlock the cars. Something stupid like that usually doesn't get you fired. It's usually something that just
Funny
makes
enough,
you stick
it's
out.
been both. Like, early on, we had an EP that was smoking a joint while he was on the job with Tecca. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, bro's smoking a joint right outside the car. I'm like, there's no way he's doing that. There was a time where Tech's in the back seat and the EP's in the front seat and he's sending dick pics. It's honestly, you can make a reality TV show, honestly, out of the things that we've seen with EPs and just EPs themselves. I would say it does lean more towards the social dynamic, obviously, but I've seen some just unprofessional, out of line things that shouldn't be done.
Yeah, I try to explain to people, bodyguarding is not hard. The hard part is being in the car with the client and actually just shutting up and not saying something that makes you sound crazy or invading their personal space.
Yeah.
Guys, we just do too much sometimes and you don't notice it, especially when you're around a person a lot. You get comfortable.
Yeah. And I think it's important to keep in mind that work and balance relationship, because at the end of the day, when you spend every single day with someone, it's unavoidable that there's going to be a connection that, it's unavoidable that the connection is going to be more than just, a job and I'm just here to work, especially if somebody is risking their life for you, and they want to protect you and they would take a bullet for you. I think that obviously I've seen it happen so many times over time, that relationship between the EP and the client is, one of the most personal relationships that there is, because that EP spends more time than anybody else.
Anybody else. They see everything, they hear everything, and it's almost like a partnership between management, the artist, and then the EP kind of gets stuck in the middle sometimes, because management may reach out to the EP to check on what the client is doing, and the client's kind of like, don't tell nobody anything, and then you're just like, who do I answer, or what do I say? So I say that to say this. It's a kind of a double conundrum question, but in this industry, who would you feel is the boss? Like, if I'm the EP, who's my boss? Is it the protectee, aka the artist, or is it the manager label who cuts the check, tells you the schedule, picks you, but then you still have to report and keep in mind what the protectee wants and what they prefer.
I think that's a case by case. I don't think that there's a right answer to that. I just think it just depends on the dynamic. In my eyes, my client is trusting me in putting the best person that there could be around him. So he's giving me that responsibility, like, yo, I want you to find somebody to protect me and look after me and be my guard. But ultimately, the artist is the boss for me. What he tells me, he could tell me, like, yo, I don't like that guard, he's got to go. Or it's, you know, at the end of the day, that EP and that artist are going to be moving around together and play situations that I may not even be there. You know, he may want to go shopping or something. He may want to go eat dinner with somebody. He may want to, whatever it is that he may want to do. There are going to be times that I may not be there to observe the movements of the EP, to observe. On tour, it's obviously different because I'm observing everything. But ultimately, it's my client's decision. Like, I believe that he's actually the boss in that situation.
Okay. So, you know, like I said, it gets tricky for some people.
But I do think that there's a lot of managers that do act like the boss, and they're, you know, they want to, you know, be in control of what the security is. I just want to make sure that the security is on point, that the EP is on point. I think for me, a huge thing also is that he's an asset to me and that he's well-spoken, that he can, you know, move the client around when I'm not there, that I don't need to worry about, you know, which is something that you're amazing at, that I can count on you at, that I'm out there. If he wants to go somewhere, he needs to get in somewhere, I can rely on you to, you know, help facilitate that and make that smooth. Some people may not have the social skills that they need or the social IQ that they need where they could be an asset in that manner. But ultimately, I just, you know, I want my client to be happy and my client to feel safe. Okay. And as long as that happens, that's all I care about.
You know, I actually didn't think you were going to go that direction.
That's funny.
I thought you were going to pick you.
You know, I feel like that's something that I feel like an older me would have been like, because I think that just when I'm new and I'm entering this industry and there's so many things happening, I try to have so much control over everything. And I try and have control over so many factors. And at the end of the day, like I said, the EP stuff is very, very simple. Like, the client should like you, keep the client safe, make sure the client moves around very smoothly, and that's it. If the client is happy and the client feels safe, there's nothing. I can focus my time and energy on so many more important things for my client than that.
Okay, so you would like for your EP to be functional mentally, where they can kind of just move knowing how you expect the association to go, as far as like, okay, management's not around, but I should have the wherewithal to execute this, and this. Yeah. And you're right. I see a lot of guys that's a niche in the market. A lot of guys don't understand.
Yeah. And I don't want to have the final say on anything. I love to be updated. Like, there may be something like, yo, your client seemed down today. Like, I'm not sure, you know, maybe you want to check up on him, or, you know, this happened, you know, at this place when we went to it, or, you know, I expect to have some kind of repertoire where I'm like being updated with things that are occurring, but I don't expect to know every single thing that's going on, as long as he's safe and he's happy. And
I try to tell guys, like, if you are having to communicate and update management, don't update them on the stupid stuff. Yeah. Like, be smart. There's certain things they don't care about. Like, if your client is in a bad mood and you know he's coming in a bad mood, then you kind of like, hey, just so you know, he's on one today.
Yeah. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. He wants to go in and out.
Yeah.
Keep him moving.
That's something you let management know. Yeah. But, like, if he woke up and didn't like his room service, like, you don't need to contact management to realize, hey, bro, you want something to eat? There's these places around here. I can go get you something. Or if you know what they like, just go get it. Yeah. And just give it to them.
And I don't even mind. And for me personally, I don't even mind knowing things like that. If you're like, oh, you didn't like the room service, I'm also more than happy to find places to eat, because that's also my job, that I don't mind. But I mean more so in the sense that, you know, I've seen, there was an instance where an artist built a very, very personal relationship with the Bodyguard, and they would share personal things with each other. Mm-hmm. And some of those things weren't my place to know necessarily. If my client wanted to share those things with me, he would share those things with me. And the EP kind of shared those things with me. And I'm like, hey, I don't like, if you have that relationship with him, don't come to report those things that have nothing to do with the job to me, because that has nothing to necessarily do with me at the end of the day. And I think, like I said, when you spend so much time with somebody, there's going to be a very, very personal relationship that's formed,
Yeah, and that puts you in a compromising situation. Like, I tell guys all the time, read the room. It sounds rudimentary when you say it out loud. It sounds hella rude, but know your place. Know your place and play your position and play it well and stay in your position. There's ways that you can help out the team around you, whether you've been somewhere before or not, and they're making a plan or something. Sometimes it's okay to mention it, but don't mention it while they're making the plan in front of everybody. You pull them to the side, say, hey, I've seen this before, blah, 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 blah. You clue people in the right way. That's something I work on every time, especially when I'm with you, because you guys are a little bit younger than me. And sometimes we run into places that I've been that you guys haven't been. Yeah. But I also don't know everything you guys know. So it's like I have to catch myself, like, when do I speak up, and am I saying something that's crossing the boundary? And you're not always going to get it right. You know what I'm saying? But if you do it in a respectful manner, and you consistently show respect, it doesn't blow up in your face too often. But that is something that usually gets people triggered. And it can be easily avoided. I just don't understand why we keep running into the same problems. Like, these stories that you're saying, some are just far out. Like, why would you even put yourself in that position? Yeah. That blows my mind. But then it's good that we can say it out loud so that somebody can learn and be like, yo, these things really happen. Like, to that young agent on the couch, like, hey, bro, this stupid stuff happens. People are getting fired for stupid things this simple. So don't be the dumb guy. Like this, and we're not saying these are extreme cases. These things literally happen. Some of the dumbest things happen between an EP agent doing something in front of the clientele that's getting them kicked out the door. Yeah. So,
and also, when you're operating at the highest level, it's the 1 strike rule. You don't get 3 strikes. You mess up once and you're out.
And I'm glad you said it out loud. Like, I really want you to speak on how you feel when you see the goofy stuff. Yeah. And when you see the good stuff, like you said, I usually see somebody with another client, and that's how I pick, or that's what I notice. And you're showcasing yourself to a potential client while you're working with your client. That's why it's important to always be on point and do your job, because you're experienced enough now. You learn very quickly what it's supposed to look like. And like you said, it's not hard. So I'm really happy you're saying these things out loud, because it's one thing to be another EP agent saying it to another guy. They can just blow it off. But now I have an executive sitting in front of me saying out loud exactly what you guys are looking at, what you guys are thinking. So maybe this can help somebody further down the line to stop dropping the ball on the simplest things. I'm a big component of what you wear and what you look. You're a fashion guy, but you're dressing for your personal self. What would you say is what you prefer as far as look, or what would you consider professional when it comes to being a bodyguard? Now, every client is different, but I'm asking you from what you see and what you prefer and what works well with in your realm.
I mean, it depends on, what's going on. If the client is outside, then I expect the guard, all black, no matter what. And I like, what's that company that you guys tell me about?
511.
Yes, 511. Shout out to 511. I've been hearing about you guys a lot, but
I need a deal. I've been waiting on the deal. I have tagged you. I've invested a lot of money into 511. Just send me a package.
Come on, let's make it happen. But no, me personally, I like my guard wearing boots. I like them in all black. It's fashion week and it's an important event. Obviously, I expect the guard to be in a suit and tie, which obviously will communicate to them. But I don't like when guards wear baggy sweatpants. I don't like when they look bummy. I like when they look on point. I like when they look like they take care of themselves physically, appearance-wise, clean shaven. Take a shower, put on deodorant.
It's sad we have to say that out loud, but it's so real. It is such a real thing. It's some stinky guys out there.
You know, I don't expect anything. I don't expect a suit and tie at all times, but I expect, you know, the person to look put together, not to look bummy, all black. And I think, you know,
and not the faded black either. I had to tell a couple guys change their shirts because the black fades away.
And obviously there's situations if we're like we're going to be in the studio for a month straight, and all we're doing is going back and forth for the studio. The guard may, you know, come up to me and be like, hey, can I wear some comfier all black clothes? And that, you know, that'll be fine with us. We're not very difficult people to work with, but I think if we're moving around in public, it's mandatory to, you know, you got to look on point.
And now my next question would be, you're moving around, you guys go to an event, there's multiple artists, there's multiple guards. You see a guard that is not dressed appropriately based off your standards. What do you automatically tell yourself about the client?
About his client?
Mm-hmm. Does his appearance affect your decision making on the client, or just you just looking at the guard crazy?
I'm not really looking at either of them, to be honest, fully transparently. Because I'm not there to really judge that artist's movement or what he has around. Like for me, I see the guard and I see how he's dressed and I see how he's moved, and it's already like I'm already forgotten about him. You know, it's like it's either as an EP and I see you moving in the field, you either catch my eye or like, you know, you're in my peripheral. You don't even exist to me. And in regards to the artist itself, I don't judge the artist whatsoever. Like that's his personal preference. He may like to move a certain way. He may like to do things a different way. All I necessarily care about is, you know, is there an organic relationship with my client and that artist? You know, are they working on something? Is there something to be done? Is there something that could be mutually beneficial for both of them? That's really everything I look at, but I don't really care about anything else when it comes to what anybody else has going on.
Okay, and my next question would be, what is your pet peeve that is an automatic, no, you can't work for us no more, or no, I would never hire you? What is one thing that stands out off the top of your head? It could be the smallest thing.
A couple of things. I would say like talking too much. I hate when somebody takes phone call when we're in a car driving somewhere and like a guard gets on their phone and they get on a 30-minute phone call. Like they're done. You're X'd out. You're not coming back. Like you're in on a loud phone call in front of the client while the client may be trying to rest or listen to music or do something. You know, there's a time and place that's on your off time that you take that call. Another big pet peeve of mine is if we're walking into meetings or we're walking into anywhere and the bodyguard starts to act like a manager or something like that. I don't like something like that. Like, so those are a few of my pet peeves, I would say.
Okay. See, it's good to put all this stuff out there because I guarantee somebody's going to learn from this. Okay, so we've covered a lot of don'ts, right? Is there a situation or instance that you can recall where the guard that you hired did something that actually made you relieved to say, you know what, man, I'm so glad I had this individual in that position at that time. Thank God they were there. Or thank God they did this.
Yeah, I think there's that instance and that feeling has occurred more than once. You know, thank God it's never been a life or death situation or anything, you know, of that extent. But there have been situations where a flight of mine gets canceled and I may not be able to get the client, you know, to a meeting or, you know, to an interview or to their hotel check-in. And that in the back of my mind, you know, drives me crazy. I'll be anxious. I'll be like, damn, I won't make the flight. Is his interview going to go good? Is he going to get in all right? Is he going to be able to check into his hotel all right? And so it is always a huge relief when an EP is like, yo, don't worry, I got you. It's a very, very simple task, which, you know, as simple as it is, you think that every EP would be able to handle that, but there's some EPs that don't even have a clue on how to check into a hotel or anything like that. So,
or worst case, don't even have the credit card capacity to hold the rooms.
Or whatever it is. You know, you got a big wallet, so thank you, X.
I'm broke. I'm broke, baby. I ain't got it. Not every day. Maybe on the 16th. But not on the 1st.
But no, it is, to me, it's a huge relief when an EP can just assist or come through in something that isn't just, you know, relating to the safety of the client, you know, and they can help out with something like that if something pops up out of nowhere. And, you know, I'm like, I know that they got it. Then that to me is a huge relief. And gives me peace of mind.
Well, I'm glad there are some positives. Sometimes we do the right things. A lot of times we drop the ball, but if the younger guys in the industry, or even the older guys who don't learn the new lessons, one thing I've learned dealing with some of your artists, because they are of a certain age range, it's almost like you have to have more energy and more understanding. Definitely. Because you may be used to running around with grown men, but if you have an artist who's under 18 or under 21, that's a whole different purview of dynamics you have to deal with. And I'm not going to say people are too old or too slow, but I will say they're not motivated to keep up with the client and the scheduling, and the fact that the client may be up till 3, 4 in the morning. He's 15, 16, maybe 18. He wants to live life and experience it. And you being not only the protector, but the adult closest to that individual, you have to make thorough decisions, not just for their safety, but their reputation and lifestyle, because you're the older person.
Yeah. And I think that's also, I think it's important to make sure that, you prioritize what you're doing on your off time. Even there may be some times on the road where an EP or a manager has such little off time. Mm-hmm. And, I remember my first tour was my first rodeo. I was going to sold out shows and we're going to party all night. Then I was on an hour or two of sleep, having to go handle venue load-ins and sound checks and things like that. Same with EPs. They may have their time off. They may want to invite girls over to their hotel. They may want to. So I, over time I've learned this is what, if I know that this is coming up, then let me prioritize my off time to take care of my body, to take care of my mind, to make sure that that little off time that I do have, I'm just, recuperating. Mm-hmm. So that I can, crush what I do. So I think it's also just, you study your client over time, realize that your client's patterns are, very much the same all the time. And so I think it's important to just keep that in mind, where as an EP or anybody in general, you need to just prioritize your mind and your health. And back to what I was saying, another thing too is I think it's important for the EP to analyze not only their artist but the artist's fan base, and kind of what the artist stands for, because an EP may work with an artist that's involved in gangs, that's involved with guns, that's involved with just a lot of BS around him, and there may be artists that are very, very safe, but they just may be wanting to move around nonstop. So I think you need to study your client and move accordingly. And you may be with a high risk client and you may move a certain way with that high risk client, but you have a low risk client, you do not need to move that same way. And it may be beneficial. For example, if you're walking out of a show with a high risk client, you're not going to want him to interact with fans and to stay outside the venue. You're going to want him to be in and out. There may be an artist that has a bunch of fans that are 14, 15, 16-year-old kids that love him, that are safe, and that artist having that moment with those fans and interacting with those fans is actually very good with the artist, and you can make sure that it's a safe environment for that artist to do that in. So I think just analyzing the risk associated with your client is also very important, so that you can move accordingly. And obviously your head should always be on a swivel and you should always be on point, but there's certain ways to move with certain clients, and also that energy is going to rub off on a client. A client, if you're moving very intensely with a client and you're in and out, that may rub off on a client like, yo, what's wrong? Is something going on? Am I safe? Or if you can keep your composure and make your client feel safe no matter what by analyzing the situation, the environment, it'll go a long way.
Yeah. That definitely is something a lot of guys don't realize, is that younger fan base. It's a different kind of safety measure that you have to take. Being aggressive, pushing, these are children. It doesn't look very good on camera to be the big aggressor, is what they're going to call you in the courts, because you're going to get sued.
Yeah.
Being aggressive, shoving little 12-year-olds that are just trying to say hello. So yeah, you definitely want to be mindful. And I'm glad you pointed it out, because you being the executive, you notice those things. You know these things, and your skin in the game is very new. I mean, you've learned a lot in a very short amount of time, but you being the younger guy and you hire an agent who's been doing it 20 years and they're dropping the ball, not realizing those mistakes, that can be extremely annoying. And it can leave a sour taste in your mouth towards other EP agents because now you're like, oh, now I got to break in a new guy. Let's hope he doesn't do this, or it just really sucks. But you are doing exactly what I was hoping for. You were opening the doors for people to understand that you guys have eyes and ears too, and you guys see everything.
Yeah, I personally love, like, it's like how I like looking for artists. Like, I love always having my eyes out open in the field. Like, I like to see who's next up in the EP industry. I like to always observe how EPs are moving because I love to, like, I would love for my artists or my producers or whoever I work with to have the best of the best around them.
And your business is constantly growing. Always maintain management relationships because you and that artist may come to an ending point, but the managers always and usually have more than one client, and they're going to continue to have clients, and they're going to remember if you did good work. So just because that situation is done, you don't go doing mean things towards the manager, talking crazy to them, insulting them. It's not their fault that you got fired. That was a choice that was made based off of your actions and the actions of the client. But the manager, he's going to move on, and he's going to build a team, and that team can be built based off of you being around or you not being around. G has multiple artists. They require multiple security guards. So that's why he probably pays more attention to EPs because he knows, we got an album, such as going to drop an album soon, so we're going to go on the road. We need somebody who's available. Hey, remember that guy I saw such and such? And then he's going to reach out, and that's how you get the gigs. You have to do good work. I'm glad you guys are hearing it firsthand. This was a very good episode, a very educational episode. A lot of things that he brought up have been said a million times, but I think this time you'll have it resonate a little bit better because you're hearing it from the horse's mouth directly. So I definitely want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I know you have an extremely busy schedule. I'm actually surprised you made it on the actual date, even though we had to push the time. So tune in for your next episode of Silverback Syndicate. This is Giuseppe. I am X. Have a good day. And remember, together, apes strong.